Hello. So the goal of all of these classes that I'm doing on YouTube is really around giving you exercises to deactivate your nervous system. Given that we're in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, most of us are experiencing a lot of activation of our nervous systems. There's a lot of things that we can't control. There are a lot of things that are causing us real fear, not just fear for our physical lives. The virus could affect our health, but also the fear for our plans, the fear for when are we going to see loved ones next, and so on. How are we going to pay our bills? I could keep going, but making you more afraid is not the point of this. The point is that our nervous systems, when we experience circumstances that make us feel afraid, what that literally means is that our nervous system is being activated a little bit more. Our nervous systems are literally preparing us to fight this threat or to run away from this threat, fight or flight, right? The problem is that the threat that we're experiencing in most cases is not really fightable or escapable by us. It's a thought that we're afraid of, or it's something that really just is out of our control. So spinning on those fears, not going to serve us so much. What is going to serve us is to give ourselves tools and to give ourselves some clues that we're actually safe right where we are, because we know that that's ultimately true. If we're in our homes, if we're staying at home, if we're practicing social distancing, we are as safe as we can be right now. And so we want to remind our nervous system of that fact. So all of these classes that I'm doing on YouTube are various tools for helping your nervous system recognize that you're safe, which if fear is activating the nervous system, heightening you in that ready to fight or flight place, these exercises are going to be deactivating you, bringing your nervous system down just a little bit. Today, I want to deal with a specific question, which is around what do I do if I notice that my breath is harder, if it's harder to breathe in the midst of these circumstances. So the fact that this particular pandemic, this particular virus affects the lungs, I want to first acknowledge that if you are experiencing symptoms of difficulty breathing when you're sleeping, when you're going for a walk, when you're not paying attention to your breath, if you notice that it's difficult to breathe, that's definitely something that you want to talk to a healthcare provider about, a doctor about. If, though, what we're talking about is that in noticing, when you go to notice your breath, when you start to pay attention to your breath, you start to feel it getting tighter. That's what we're talking about here. That my breath feels like it's harder to breathe when I think about it. And so we're going to do some exercises around what do I do when I notice that my breath is not as free as I think that it could be, or as free as I would like it to be. So the first thing that we're going to do is that, or the first thing that we're not going to do is try to fix it. The breath is tricky. It's highly susceptible to our belief. It's highly susceptible to our circumstances, our belief about circumstances. So if I start to look at this tightness of breathing, this difficulty of breathing as something that is wrong, my breathing is going to become even more labored. Your breath is controlled by both your central nervous system, meaning that you can consciously control your breathing. It's also controlled by your autonomic nervous system, where your fight or flight or freeze response lives. So if you're already in a state of fight or flight, which probably most of us are really at this point, if you're already in a state of fight or flight, your breath is going to be slightly constricted because of the circumstances. If we were to add concern about the breath on top of this, then that's telling your nervous system something is very wrong, and it's going to go even deeper into that fight or flight response, if not going all the way to freeze. So, because we logically know that we're safe, I'm in my home, there's no threat in this room with me, because I logically know that, and because I logically know that I don't actually have anything wrong with my breathing, I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to fix my breath. I'm going to give a lot of energy telling my whole nervous system that I am safe. I hope that one of the side effects of that is that you will find more freedom in your breathing, but I can't say this enough. The last thing that we want to do when we notice discomfort is to try to fix that discomfort. We want to instead get curious about how we could find some enjoyment with that discomfort. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our attention off of our body for a moment. We're going to take our attention out into our environment and start noticing what we're seeing in our environment effortlessly. So the details that you're noticing in the particular room that you're in. I recommend looking away from the screen to do this if you're not already. And then I'm also aware of sounds that I can hear. You're obviously hearing my voice. There's probably all sorts of other cacophony of sounds in your particular environment. I've got my dryer going. I hear my speaker on my computer. And I'm perhaps actively looking for, what in my space do I like, or what feels really neutral about this space? Because in finding neutrality, that's a big old clue to my nervous system that, look, I'm safe. And then I'm going to go to my tactile sensations. So my hands are touching my legs in this moment. So I'm just noticing what I feel with that touch. It's cold. My fingers are cold. So I feel the coolness of my fingers against my legs. My upper arms, which aren't covered by sleeves. And my forearms, they're a little bit chillier than the rest of my body that's covered by clothing. And then I'm going to go inward and I'm going to notice something about my body that feels good. Good or neutral. So maybe that is a slight movement that you feel. I feel like a slight rocking side to side that feels pretty good to me. The connection of my hands to my legs feels pretty good. So it could be a place where you feel support. It could be a movement that you feel. It could be a static place in your body. My earlobes feel pretty neutral right now. My elbows How often do we pay attention to our elbows? My elbows feel pretty neutral right now. And I'm just recognizing that there's really a fluidity to what it is that I'm giving my attention to. There's a fluidity between the things I hear and see and touch, the things I smell and taste could be part of this as well, but we're mostly talking about how I receive the environment through my senses effortlessly. This is from a practice called organic intelligence. It's called orientation. You can do this throughout your day. If you notice that your breath is tight, I would recommend taking your attention away from your breathing for a little bit and getting really curious about what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're feeling in that moment is a great way to tell your nervous system that you're safe. Look, I'm literally giving you information that we're safe. And in doing that, your nervous system will deactivate just a bit and your breathing will release just a bit. This will take time, this will take practice and consistency and probably a lot more direct attention than in normal circumstances where it's easier to feel good. I hope easier to feel good. Another thing that I want to add to this, we're going to add voice to our exhales, voice to our sound. So when I say voice, what I literally mean, if you bring your hands to your larynx, if I'm just breathing with no voice, I should feel that there's no vibration in my larynx, my voice box. I might feel some movement. I might feel some pressure of my breath coming up through my larynx, but there's no vibration. That's different than right now I'm speaking, so I'm on voice. So I'm feeling my larynx vibrating a lot. If you were to sigh out on that exhale, you should feel lots of vibration in this space. I'm going to encourage you to vibrate, to phonate, to add as much voice to your exhales as possible. If we're exhaling on voice, lots of long, luxurious exhales, then that means we're breathing. And as we're breathing, our muscles are going to soften more, so then it's going to become easier to breathe throughout our torso. So we're going to now transition to doing a series of exercises, but throughout these exercises, I'm going to be modeling that voiced sigh. I encourage you to do the same. You might not all be alone in your house. My partner is very aware of the strange sounds that I make when I'm doing my voice practice. If you're feeling shy about this, you can back off a little bit, but do play with sounding because it feels good. Okay, so here's the real theme of what we're exploring today. We're only exploring things that would feel good. And if we do something and we notice that it doesn't feel so good, we're going to modify that action or we're going to do something different. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to stretch. A free-flowing stretch. That would feel good to you. And as soon as I stretch, I start to feel a yawn coming on. So I'm going to give into that yawn and I'm going to stick my tongue out of my mouth for that yawn. And I've still got more stretching that I want to do, so I'm continuing. And again, I'm sticking my tongue out and giving myself a yawn. And I'm doing this from a seated position, but if you'd be more comfortable laying on the floor and doing this, you're very welcome to do that. Notice in this, this after you've yawned, I feel like this is such a gorgeous feeling, the feeling right after you yawn. So I'm just going to take a moment to notice how good it feels, that like post yawn, that post stretch place. And noticing, where do you feel that feels good? I feel like a tingling throughout my arms, especially because that's really where I was stretching. And it's just this really lovely, gentle, luxurious tingling that I'm feeling throughout my arms. So now I'm going to go to a scrunch, a contracting of my muscles. So you can pull yourself into a ball, tightening your muscles. But again, I want you to notice what feels good about being in this particular position, this tightening, this contracting. And then whenever you're ready, letting that go. And again, I'm just noticing this in between, this resting, if you will. What do I notice that feels good in this moment? And then the last thing I'm going to do for this moment, actually, it's not at all the last thing I'm going to do. I'm going to shake. I'm just moving my body as much as I can. I could bring my arms up and shake them if you're lying on the floor. You could lift your legs and shake those out. And again, I'm just letting sound move through me as I do this. Beautiful. And again, one more time, I'm just noticing this after this transition between the next action, the next activity. What do I notice that feels good? I talked about this a moment ago when we were talking about yawning, of sticking the tongue out of the mouth to yawn. One of the reasons that's so effective is because when we're in fight or flight, your tongue root, which is the very back of your tongue and also forms the front wall of your throat right about here, your tongue root will retract when you're in fight or flight, and your larynx will advance up when you're in fight or flight, so that your throat is literally a little bit more closed. So we can give ourselves a really lovely, juicy, luxurious, again, point being we enjoy it. We can give ourselves a nice yawn with that tongue sticking out. And that tongue sticking out while we yawn is helping to stretch that tongue root and the back of the throat so that we're getting more space back there versus a normal yawn where the tongue root typically retracts back, pulls back further. So one more time, I'm going to do a little yawn. And I'm noticing what feels good about this yawn as I do it. Great. Another thing we're going to do to help open up that space in our throat, really, you're going to do your biggest smile, like your cheesiest commercial smile. Your lip corners are up really high, your cheeks are really engaged, and then you're going to lower your jaw just a bit. And again, I feel a little yawn wanting to come on, so I'm sticking my tongue root forward. I'm letting that release away. One more time. I call this the Olive Garden because you're doing the cheesiest smile and then you're lowering your jaw. So it's like you're in an Olive Garden commercial. This is really great for releasing the muscles of the face and all the way down into that back of the mouth, the throat. So one more time, biggest smile you can. And then lowering your jaw just a bit. And if a yawn wants to come, allow it. Great. And I'm orienting. You might feel yourself yawning a lot throughout this. Great. Yawning is a sign that you're deactivating. If you're not yawning, that's okay too. We're going to move on now to doing some touching of yourself, including touching your face. So we're at a point where people are saying, don't touch your face. It's really dangerous. I'm at home. My place has been disinfected many times. I washed my hands recently, so I feel really comfortable about touching my face and my body in this moment. If that's not true for you and you'd like to pause this and go wash your hands and come back, go ahead and do so. But we're going to move on to this. So I'm going to start by just moving my hands together. This is a familiar gesture right now as well. A gesture that might have a little bit of stress associated with it, the gesture of washing our hands. We're going to change our focus to noticing what feels good about this, so that this is now turning into almost more of like a massage. Massaging my hands. I also noticed that my jaw is really dropped. My mouth is open as I'm sighing out on exhales. And notice, I started by doing the gesture and then I said, okay, your intention is for it to feel good. Once the intention changed to feeling good, did you notice yourself modifying slightly? I started going much slower. I started changing the pressure that I was applying. I'm doing different types of touch now. Some kind of like grazing action, some massaging action versus just the washing action. So keep that in mind throughout as I move up into my forearms. What version of touch would feel good right now? And follow that. I'm doing my other forearm. And then I'm going into my upper arm. Opposite upper arm. You're going at whatever rhythm feels good to you. You might be slightly faster than me or slightly behind. That is okay. Now I'm going into my shoulders, especially the back of my shoulders. And I'm doing a little bit of like pinching my traps, my trapezius muscles. And now I'm going into my ribs, my chest. My touch is changing quite a lot as I go through, as I'm exploring these different areas. The quality of touch that I'm doing that would feel good is varying. And now I'm going to move to the sides of my ribs. So like from my armpit all the way down to the very end of my ribs. If I go in between my ribs, those muscles in between my ribs, just massage that space. Those are called your intercostal muscles. I'm just massaging through here. Catherine Fitzmaurice, who is my teacher, she calls this unzipping the ribs. You can imagine if you had a corset on, if you were wearing a corset, that there would be some tightening in the ribs, and we're just loosening that corset. We're unzipping the sides, create a little bit more space. And I'm going to do it on the other side now. I'm especially paying attention to my lower sides of my ribs. We could go all the way up to the armpits, but I'm mostly giving attention to the ribs that are at like chest level and below, or below chest level really, because those ribs aren't attached to my sternum. They aren't attached to my breastbone. So they just have more ability to expand than the ribs that are connected to this big bone here in the center. And see what it's like to also orient as you're doing this. You can hear that my neighbors are playing basketball outside. So now I'm picturing them playing basketball. Okay, that's all I'm going to do for my ribs for a moment, although actually I'm craving a little bit more in my back ribs, which don't get nearly as much attention. Now I'm going into my lower back, and I'm continuing this touch exercise, and then my waist, and my belly. And I think you can no longer see me, but I'll move my camera a bit so you can see my whole body. There we go. So my belly, my pelvis. And then I'm going to move into my legs, my glutes, my bum, my thighs. And I again just slowed way down because I realized I was going way faster and more intense than my body actually wanted, than my thighs actually wanted. So I'm adjusting. And then my other thigh, glute. And then down to my knees. And then my lower leg, the calf, and the shin. And then over to my other knee. And my lower leg, calf, shin. And then I'm not going to touch my feet too much at this point because I'm not wearing socks. And I'm about to touch my face shortly. So I'm using just kind of my knuckles to give a little bit of touch here. But I might go and massage the soles of my feet later. Or if you're wearing socks and want to go ahead and massage your feet now, you can. Another really nice thing to do for the bottom of the feet is to stand on a tennis ball at different pressure points. It does amazing work for releasing the muscles, the fascia, really on the bottom of the feet. So now we've done this whole body up through like the head, right? So now we're going to explore some actions for releasing the upper part of the body a little bit more. So I'm going to start by massaging my jaw. And I'm using the heel of my hand, the sides of my hand, rather than my fingertips, but you can do whatever would feel good to you. And then I'm going to go underneath the chin. This is really getting at the root of the tongue as well. And I'm just massaging in whatever way would feel good to you. I do this pretty regularly, so I'm giving myself a fair amount of pressure. But if you do this and it feels really tender, back way off so that you're doing a quality of touch that just feels supportive. And I'm going to take my fingers, my 4 non-thumbs, I like to call them. And I'm bringing them to my hairline. With my lips parted, my jaw released, I'm just going to drag my fingers down my face. And I'm not applying very much pressure at all. Just the light pressure of my hands moving is plenty for that face to feel that it can soften. I'm going to do that one more time. Just dragging my fingers down my face. And I'm orienting again. So now we're going to do a body scan. So get as comfortable as you can. If you're really comfortable sitting, you can be there. If you'd like to lie down on your back, you can go ahead and do that. I'm just going to do a little scan to transition our way out back to the world. And sometimes with the body scan, there's this inclination that I have to do something to feel that space. We're really looking for, again, what's easy? What am I noticing that's already there? We've done a lot of movement, a lot of touch throughout the body, so just noticing what sensations are alive in you now. Starting with your right foot. What sensations are in your right foot? And then your right ankle, your lower right leg, the calf and shin, your right knee, your right thigh and hip, and then your left foot, your left ankle, your lower left leg, calf and shin, your left knee, your left thigh, your left hip, then your right hand, your right wrist, your right forearm, your right elbow, your upper right arm, and the right shoulder. Then your left hand, your left wrist, your left forearm, your left elbow, your upper left arm, and your left shoulder. And then both shoulders up through your neck, the back, the sides, the front, your head and your face, your mouth, your throat, your spine. The top of your spine is in between your ears and goes all the way down to just an inch above your pelvic floor. And then sensing your pelvis, the front of your pelvis, a couple of inches below your belly button. This is the center of your body. Maybe even the center of your being. Your gut is here. And then sensing the whole belly, the whole lower back, and the ribs, the back, the front, the sides. And again, we're going to go to the environment. So if your eyes were closed, you could gently open them. What do your eyes like to see in this moment? Moving your head as part of this exploration. What do your eyes like to see, or what do they see that's really neutral? And then going internal to somewhere in your body where you feel support. Maybe it's the feeling of your body against the surface that you're on, the chair, the floor, the cushion, a slight movement. Maybe it's where your hands are making contact with your body. And then back to your environment. Okay. I hope you found some enjoyment, some real genuine pleasure in this exploration. And just a reminder, if you notice discomfort in your breathing, rather than trying to fix it or rather than trying to figure out what's wrong, notice something that feels really good or neutral. Ultimately, any tensing in your body is your body trying to take care of you. It is. Fight or flight is a necessary survival mode. So if you're experiencing things that are part of the fight or flight response, it's because we're in a really scary time and your body's trying to take care of you. So being grateful, like real gratitude that your nervous system is working in a way that's trying to support you, such a good thing to do. And then like a gently correcting parent or teacher, you can go, really good job, really appreciate it. I think what I'd like to do instead is pay attention to my environment or notice something that feels really good. Give myself a really juicy yawn and enjoy that yawn. And that stretch. So that what I'm giving my attention to is not what's wrong in my body, but what feels really good, really neutral. All right, thank you.